Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the synthesis of yoga with our beloved Ranga. We're on page 108, the Yoga of Divine Works, and the line begins with, "But it is only a divine love and unity."
But it is only a divine love and unity that can possess in the light what the human forms of these things seek for in the darkness. For the true unity is not merely an association and agglomeration like that of physical cells joined by a life of common interests. It is not even an emotional understanding, sympathy, solidarity, or close drawing together. Only then are we really unified with those separated from us by the divisions of nature. When we annul the division and find ourselves in that which seemed to us not ourselves. Association is a vital and physical unity. Its sacrifice is that of mutual aid and concessions. Nearness, sympathy, solidarity create a mental, moral, and emotional unity. Theirs is a sacrifice of mutual support and mutual gratifications. But the true unity is spiritual. Its sacrifice is a mutual self-giving, an interfusion of our inner substance. The law of sacrifice travels in nature towards its culmination in this complete and unreserved self-giving. It awakens the consciousness of one common self in the giver and the object of the sacrifice. This culmination of sacrifice is the height even of human love and devotion when it tries to become divine. For there too, the highest peak of love points to a heaven of complete mutual self-giving. Its summit is a rapturous fusing of two souls into one. So he is explaining the difference between unity in the physical world, human unity, and spiritual unity. That's what he is explaining. So, even divine love and human love, the differences between the two. So, but it is only a divine love and unity that can possess in the light what the human forms of these things seek for in the darkness. So, in our normal world, when we are in ignorance, we do seek love, but we seek it egoistically. We seek it more for ourselves than for the other. And even if there is a little bit of platonic love, okay, still there is an element of impurity and egoism. Even the love of a mother for the child, the mother expects the child to love her. So there is an expectation of a return. So it is impure. But the divine love is not like that. It only gives liberally. That's the first thing. Second thing is explaining about unity. Unity in the world, yes, there are unions. The labor organizations make a union because they have a common interest. So they may fight among themselves, but they function as a union. Then there are the pacts between nations. SEATO, CENTO, NATO, these are all pacts. So is that unity? No, it is not unity, Srimad is saying. It is a mutual, if I seek this unity, I have an advantage. The other person also has an advantage. So it's a mutual arrangement of interests. But the real unity is spiritual, and it's a cosmic consciousness where you feel yourself to be spiritually one with everybody. Not an arrangement, a practical arrangement of conveniences. That's what he's explaining. Okay, and you can't get the true love and the true unity in the physical world of darkness. But you can get it in the divine, in the spiritual fields of light. You can have true love and true unity. True unity will be spiritual, not an arrangement of mutual interests. That's what he's saying. Because arrangement of mutual interests break up when the interest is gone. Okay. If China attacks India, the whole nation feels to be one, but it's very temporary. That's not the real unity at all. It's not even an emotional unity, he's saying. Okay. In a family, there can be a sense of unity relatively, because you expect love and cooperation with the others, and sometimes it doesn't work. Okay. So all that is not true unity. True unity is in a cosmic consciousness, when you feel yourself to be one with everybody, and it's a mutual giving. You are giving and the others also are giving. So with this background, we'll read what he's saying. It is only a divine love and unity that can possess in the light what the human forms of these things are only seeking for in the darkness. So here, love is seeking to fulfill itself. Can't always do it. Unity also is temporary and for mutual benefits. But then it's a bargain. It's a sort of commercial deal. That's not the true unity of the divine. There it is. You really feel yourself to be one with everybody. For the true unity is not merely an association and agglomeration like that of physical cells joined by a life of common interests. It is not even an emotional understanding, sympathy, solidarity, or close drawing together. Only then are we really unified with those separated from us by the divisions of nature. I'm stopping here because the divisions of nature, multiplicity is the rule and the law in nature. And that is division. So you can never have true unity in the field of nature. There is a unity, but it is more, both are there. Unity and multiplicity, both are there, but in different proportions. In the physical world, multiplicity, division, separateness is the primary fact. But there is a sense of unity also. You can see that in species. You can see that even in a mango tree. Okay? There are 100 mangoes, each one is separate. And each one is different. And yet they are all mangoes. The mango-ness is a unity. So, this is the, all cats are different. And yet there is something called catness. So that's a unity. But it is there in the background, but it's not a reality. The separateness is more operative in the physical world. But you go to the spiritual world, it's not separateness that is there, but true unity. So, only then are we really unified with those separated from us by the divisions of nature, when we annul the division and find ourselves in that which seemed to us not ourselves. Right now, you are not me. But if I am in the cosmic consciousness, you and I are the same. You are me and I am you. I feel myself to be you. That's what he is saying. Association is a vital and physical unity. Its sacrifice is that of mutual aid and concessions. Nearness, sympathy, solidarity create a mental, moral, and emotional unity. Theirs is sacrifice of mutual support and mutual gratifications. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. Mutual gratification. So you feel all right. But that doesn't last forever. That's what I'm saying. Okay? But the true unity is spiritual. Its sacrifice is a mutual self-giving. I give myself to you, you give myself to, I give myself to everybody. And everybody also will give myself to me, I feel myself to be part of everybody. For the person who is in the spiritual consciousness, this is the reality. But the true unity is spiritual. It's sacrifice. Spiritual means level 2, not level 1. You go to the spiritual planes of consciousness. Its sacrifice is a mutual self-giving, an interfusion of our inner substance. It's very, very, this sentence is very clear. Inner substance. Our body has a substance, our vital has a subtler substance, but there is substance. Emotions have forms, colors, okay, it's a substance. Thoughts also have forms and colors. So, when there is love, there is a mixing of the inner substance. Not the body, but the inner substance, there is a mixing. There is a giving and a taking. Interfusion. Same as using the word.
Interfusion, yes.
Yeah. So, both merge and come together. Okay? Of our inner substance. The law of sacrifice travels in nature towards its culmination in this complete and unreserved self-giving. Completely you give yourself fully. That's the law of sacrifice. We have dealt with the law of sacrifice to a certain extent. The divine has created the world of separateness, but he has also introduced the law of sacrifice, which ensures that the ego does not always dominate. The law of sacrifice is you give yourself to others. We read that Sanskrit shloka, na? The rivers flow not for their own benefit, but the waters of the river are for the benefit of others. The cow is giving milk for the benefit of others. The fruits are on the tree are for the benefit of others, not the tree itself. Therefore, your body also should be for the benefit of others. That's the law of sacrifice in a nutshell. Okay, so the law of sacrifice travels in nature towards its culmination in this complete and unreserved self-giving. It awakens the consciousness of one common self in the giver and the object of the sacrifice. This culmination of sacrifice is the height even of human love and devotion when it tries to become divine. For there too, the highest peak of love points to a heaven of complete mutual self-giving. Its summit is a rapturous fusing of two souls into one. If you have read Radha's prayer, which Mother has written, every drop of my blood is for you. Okay, there is a very interesting conversation. Someone asked Ramdo, have you ever seen true surrender? So Srirendra says, yes.
Mother.
It was Mother. I have never thought that it would be possible. But when she came, her surrender was complete. Absolutely complete. But human beings is never complete. But if you go to the spiritual planes of consciousness, it very nears completion. You can do that. Give yourself fully to the divine. The Prayers and Meditations book, there is a message by Mother. Okay? She says that some give their wealth to the divine, some give their thoughts and emotions to the divine, but some give themselves entirely to the divine.
Others, for whatever their gifts, are useless ciphers.
Yeah. So that is the true sacrifice. And finally, Srimad is saying, its fusion is a rapturous fusing of two souls into one. It reminds you of what Mother has said about Mother and Srimad. Okay. She says, without him, I do not exist. And without me, his manifestation will be incomplete.
He is unmanifest.
Yeah, I'm using different words. So, two souls into one. In one message, she says, the supermental consciousness is possible when you make no difference at all between Sri Aurobindo and me. When you think of me, automatically you think of Sri Aurobindo. When you think of Sri Aurobindo, automatically you will think of me, and there is no division between the two. That is the condition for the first step for going to the supermental. Otherwise, you are not fit for it. Its summit is a rapturous fusing of two souls into one. I read the next para. This profounder idea of the worldwide law is at the heart of the teaching about works given in the Gita. A spiritual union with the highest by sacrifice, an unreserved self-giving to the eternal is a core of its doctrine. So you have to surrender yourself fully to the divine. That's the Gita's yoga. The vulgar conception of sacrifice is an act of painful self-immolation, austere self-mortification, difficult self-effacement. This kind of sacrifice may go even as far as self-mutilation and self-torture. These things may be temporarily necessary in man's hard endeavor to exceed his natural self. If the egoism in his nature is violent and obstinate, it has to be met sometimes by an answering strong internal repression and counterbalancing violence. But the Gita discourages any excess of violence done to oneself, for the self within is really the God, evolving. It is Krishna, it is the divine. It has not to be troubled and tortured as the titans of the world trouble and torture it, but to be increased, fostered, cherished, luminously opened to a divine light and strength and joy and wideness. It is not oneself, but the band of the Spirit's inner enemies that we have to discourage, expel, slay upon the altar of the growth of the Spirit. These can be ruthlessly excised, whose names are desire, wrath, inequality, greed, attachment to outward pleasures and pains. Outward pleasures, attachment to outward pains. The cohort of usurping demons that are the cause of the soul's errors and sufferings. These should be regarded not as part of oneself, but as intruders and perverters of our self's real and diviner nature. These have to be sacrificed in the harsher sense of the word. Whether pain in going they may throw, whatever pain in going they may throw by reflection on the consciousness of the seeker. So, you should not trouble yourself unnecessarily, but in fact he says, he goes even as far as to say that when you see defects and imperfections in yourself, okay, you should not get discouraged. You must look at them calmly, quietly, and try to get rid of them without being discouraged. So there should be no sorrow or no self-depreciation. Self-depreciation is not necessary. But what you have to, and he's saying that the Muslims also do that. They flog themselves. And the Christians also sometimes they follow methods where they torture the body because the body is a source of attachment, desire. So you discourage desire in this way. But that's not the way to do it. That's what Gita says.
Self-mutilation and self-torture.
So what you have to really discourage and kill even mercilessly is desire, wrath, inequality, greed, attachment to outer pleasures and pains. Look at that. Is man really attached to pains? If you look really at yourself, you will see that yes, there is the enjoyment of others' pains is there. You are a sadist, but you can also you can enjoy your own pain. There is a word for that. What is the word? There you are, masochist. You enjoy your own pain.
Yeah.
So same as saying attachment to outer pleasures and pains. Human nature is so complex. When a person is in depression, you try to get him out of depression, he doesn't want to get out of depression. He wants to remain in depression. So this is the...
But to talk a little bit about these usurping demons.
He is talking of desire, wrath, inequality. These are the demons. The cohort. Cohort is a group of soldiers in a Roman army. So there is a collection of usurping demons, okay, that are the cause of the soul's errors and sufferings. These are the demons: desire, wrath, inequality, greed, and attachment. He is giving them a personification. He is not talking here of the hostile forces.
No.
That is different. So here, the usurping demons. What are the usurping? They are unseating the soul and putting the vital in front. So that's why usurping demons. That are the cause of the soul's errors and sufferings. If you have got all these things, the soul is not making, the soul will suffer silently, which are vital, which is doing all this. These should be regarded not as part of oneself, but as intruders and perverters of our self's real and divine nature. Srinath says something very interesting. He says that when you see an imperfection in yourself, don't think of it as part of you. Think of it as though it is coming from outside. Then it's easier to reject. So that's what he's saying here also. These should be regarded not as part of oneself, but as intruders. Actually it happens, desire comes from outside. Wrong thoughts come from outside, they are contagious. So, we go to the next para. But the true essence of sacrifice is not self-immolation. It is self-giving. Its object, not self-effacement, but self-fulfillment. Its method, not self-mortification, but a greater life, not self-mutilation, but a transformation of our natural human parts into divine members, not self-torture, but a passage from a lesser satisfaction to a greater ananda. There is only one thing painful in the beginning to a raw or turbid part of the surface nature. It is the indispensable discipline demanded, the denial necessary for the merging of the incomplete ego. But for that, there can be a speedy and enormous compensation in the discovery of a real greater or ultimate completeness in others, in all things, in the cosmic oneness, in the freedom of the transcendent self and spirit, in the rapture of the touch of the divine. Okay. It's very interesting what he's saying. Nah? He's saying that the only painful part is the discipline that is imposed. So that's in the beginning. But he also says that, and that's why he recommends a psychic being. So he says, if the psychic being you are able to bring it forward, okay, and it dominates your nature, even the greatest difficulties are taken in the right spirit and you don't suffer. You just see it as an obstacle, but you don't suffer for it if the psychic comes forward. That's why he recommends first of all the psychic, then the spiritual. First the inner growth, then the upper growth. Okay, so But for that, there can be a speedy and enormous compensation in the discovery of a greater, what you are paying through discipline, the effort you are giving, the recompense is much, much greater. That's what he's saying. Okay. But for that, there can be a speedy and enormous compensation in the discovery of a real, greater, or ultimate completeness in others, in all things, in the cosmic oneness, in the freedom of the transcendent self and spirit, in the rapture of the touch of the divine. Our sacrifice is not a giving without any return or any fruitful acceptance from the other side. It's an interchange between the embodied soul and conscious nature in us and the eternal spirit. For even though no return is demanded, yet there is the knowledge deep within us that a marvelous return is inevitable. The soul knows that it does not give itself to God in vain. Claiming nothing, it yet receives the infinite riches of the divine power and presence. Last, there is to be considered the recipient of the sacrifice and the manner of the sacrifice. The sacrifice may be offered to others, or it may be offered to divine powers. It may be offered to the cosmic all, or it may be offered to the transcendent supreme. The worship given may take any shape, from the dedication of a leaf or flower, a cup of water, a handful of rice, a loaf of bread, to consecration of all that we possess and the submission of all that we are. Whoever the recipient, whatever the gift, it is the supreme, the eternal in things, who receives and accepts it, even if it be rejected or ignored by the immediate recipient. For the Supreme who transcends the universe is yet here too, however veiled, in us and in the world and in its happenings. He is there as the omniscient witness and receiver of all our works and their secret master. All our actions, all our efforts, even our sins and stumblings and sufferings and struggles are obscurely or consciously known to us and seen, or else unknown and in a disguise, governed in their last result by the One. All is turned towards Him in His numberless forms and offered through them to the single omnipresence. In whatever form and with whatever spirit we approach Him, in that form and with that spirit He receives the sacrifice. So the more you give yourself, the more you will give. But this should not be done in a commercial spirit. I am giving myself to you because I want something back from you. That won't do. That's what happens in temples and churches, donations and all that. This is what happens. You give something and you expect something more.
So you told us that story about the man who would send 100 rupees to Mother. But my friend also said that in whatever way one gives, the divine receives it.
Yes, He receives it.
Interesting, huh?
So the point is this, that He may give you what you want, but what you want is pleasure. And pleasure, if there is bound to be pain. Why? Because desire, when your desire is satisfied, you get pleasure. But the world is infinite and the desire may not always be satisfied. Then there is pain. So the solution is get rid of desire and enjoy everything. So that's true. And this is again, the divine receives everything. And He also may give you something, what you want. But you are wanting it, so He gives it to you. But you will have to struggle with it because it may put you into trouble also. Mother says something very interesting. When someone comes and asks me, Mother, I want to do this, she doesn't interfere. She says, if he wants and is very clear about what he wants to do, I don't interfere. I say, okay. But if they say, Mother, tell me what I should do, then I guide them. The divine never imposes himself on anybody. But the more if you open, then they will give you what you want. Should we stop here today?
We can stop. Namaste, all. Namaste.